Hi, it's Rhiannon Faith, and I want to tell you a story. I was listening to another message on Faithful app. Again, if you haven't checked it out, you really should. It's amazing. It was a message by Levi Lesko, actually one that he just gave this last week. He was talking about what to do when life is challenging, and his message was a little bit more colorfully titled, but he was talking about Joseph in Genesis 37. He has this incredible dream that he's going to rule over his brothers, and shockingly, they didn't receive that dream well when he shared it with them. So they threw him in a pit, and he navigated all kinds of challenges as a result of that situation, but it put him on track to the destiny that he had, that God had for him. And it wasn't without further turbulence along the way where other trials and other challenges presented themselves. And so it reminded me of a dream I had a number of years ago, at least 10, plus 10. And it was during a time of tremendous discouragement and frustration and sadness. Just weariness, I think, is probably the best way to say it. I just felt like I had been running the race and I wasn't getting anywhere. I wasn't getting any traction. And I just couldn't move forward in a way that really mattered. So in this dream, I have a tendency to dream really vividly, like full color, sound, smells, textures, like the whole kit and caboodle. Sometimes I'll wake up after a night of vivid dreams. I'm like, did I even sleep? Honestly, because it was just so much information in such a short period of time. So in the dream, I'm frantically tiptoe running up these stairs, and these stairs are very, very short, shallow, and short each step. So the most you could do is really run on your tiptoes all the way up these stairs. And as you can imagine, it's pretty uncomfortable and it's hard to stay the course in doing that. And after a short time, you're completely fatigued. And so I kept running up these stairs, and I could make it only so far. And because the stairs were so short and so shallow, I couldn't rest on the stairs. There was no place to take a break. And so I would have to grow weary and go back to the start, just back to the bottom of this hill. There was another path to the left of this really short and narrow staircase, and it was this roadway. And there was a moment where I'm in this dream and I'm on this go-kart sort of thing, and I'm flooring it, trying to get to the top of this hill. I'm trying everything I can, giving everything I can to get through this. And the faster I started going and the closer I started getting, the more I started to separate off the mountain, like the most petrifying feeling that no longer connected, and I would slide back down to the start. And so all the efforts to sort of shortcut or rush along were going to be unsuccessful. And this whole toe jog journey was going to be unsuccessful. And no matter how much I pushed or tried to endure, it was just too much. And so to the right, there was another set of stairs. And this set of stairs were a little bit more like a traditional set of stairs. They were, roughly a foot wide and a foot high. And so you could walk up them and you could pause for a rest. And if you needed to, you could sit down on them, but you couldn't sleep on them, not comfortably. I mean, I'm sure at various times, as my aunt would say, I've been found hiding in many unusual spots with no particular room, but I don't think I could work it out on a standard staircase. Certainly not now. But again, the journey was taking a few steps, really feeling like you got a good stride, but ultimately there was no rest to be found in that, because that staircase didn't have any place for rest. And there was no scene to the top. I couldn't visualize what my destination was. I just knew to keep climbing. So I'm back at the bottom of the staircase, the second staircase, the third track that I've tried. And I'm again frustrated and weary. And I go to now the third staircase. And this staircase is a little bit wider, maybe 4 or 5 feet long for each of the steps. And they're more like 2 feet wide or so, and about 1.5 feet high. So it's a little bit like doing doubles, but you can, make it kind of similar to a concrete stadium where they'll have the built-in bleachers, but they're higher, wider, not quite full bleacher style, but that rough dynamic. So it was a little hard to climb each step. And as I would climb, I was capable of doing the climb, and there were places that I could take rest, but I could only do so much on my step. And I could keep going, but it was going to take me a long time. And again, as I looked up, it was just further and further away before there seemed to be no end to the number of stairs that they're going to be there. And as I again found myself so discouraged and frustrated, and recognizing that there's no way that this is what I was designed for. I wasn't supposed to be in it like this. This is so on your own and figure it out. And I absolutely believe contrary to what God had for me. And so I looked to my right again, and there's another staircase. And this staircase is incredible. Each step is huge, like this massive panel of space, and they're very deep and they're very tall. So it's like 4.5 feet between each of the steps. But when you're on a step, this large platform of a step, there's room to move, and there's room to turn around and see where you've been and where you're going, and rest. But most importantly, I feel like be present. And this was the first time I saw other people on the stairs, and they weren't distinctive people or what have you. They were just people on the stairs. But these people that were on the stairs, the only way you could navigate the stairs was with someone else. So it wasn't possible. You couldn't, there was just enough distance, just enough height that you needed to be able to boost the one person up. So they must have been higher than 4.5 feet. But you had to boost the one person up, and that person had to pull you the rest of the way. And so it was taking each of the steps together. It only worked together. But then stopping and turning around and appreciating that level, that space, that experience, and that presence, and finding rest and peaceability and focus. And I long to be on that staircase. And I so believed that God was giving me this to say, the journey I've put you on is going to require you to be on that staircase. And you're not going to be able to be on that staircase by yourself. And that doubled down my discouragement, honestly, because that was not the situation I was in. That wasn't my story at the time. But I couldn't get over this dream. And I mean, for years, God, you gave this to me, so it must be something that you want for me. And I have tried to dream it again, if that makes sense. Like, where's the rest of the story? When does it come next? Spoiler alert, tell me what's going on. I want the rest of the story. And it didn't come. But in various times, in various seasons, various phases, I heard God say, that's why that step wasn't for you. That's why those stairs are so exhausting, because your only option is to sprint up them. So you can only go as far as you can manage a sprint in one pass, because there's no break to be had. And when I found myself on the more standard staircase of life where I'm just not really resting. I'm getting it going and I'm making it work, whatever. But there was no true rest to be had. The only solo rest to be had would be on that third staircase, but that staircase did not yield the fullness, the total enjoyment and appreciation, because even while on that step, there was no one to go back to back with, to watch with you and watch over you and be in the journey alongside you. And so I'm so grateful that in that time of tremendous discouragement and sadness, that God gave me a glimpse, cryptic, a glimpse of what he had in store and what he was putting into place if I would just get out of the way, which is a little bit of a challenge for me sometimes. Thinking, God, you're busy. You got a lot on your plate, so many people, right? Okay, so I'll take this. But really what I needed to do was just give it over. And I needed to fully surrender. And in my fully surrendering, I needed to legitimately leave it there, which I'm also pretty bad about. Okay, God, it's all yours. I'm gonna give it to you. And then leaving it at the foot of the cross and turning around and walking off and just feeling so light and unburdened, like I could float away right now. This is amazing. I don't have any of these stressors or challenges, because by the way, those weren't mine to carry. And then going, well, God's pretty busy. This isn't like the biggest deal. Surely I can manage this. And going and picking the stupid thing back up. I mean, honestly. And I'd like to say I'm smart, okay, but clearly not always. And so when I was listening to Levi Lesko in this message, I was thinking again about that dream and about how it's not the realization of God's plan in your life or the next step in action. And life is not linear, except when you draw it out on a timeline. It's all over the place. You make strides in progress in one area and then you divert back in another. And it is easy to be frustrated in all of that. But I have been really, really grateful because I choose to be grateful, I guess. I'm looking always for the goodness around me. And I'm recognizing where God has moved. And plenty of people who say, oh, well, you did that on your own. That was on your own effort. Absolutely was not. Not a little bit. Love to take credit. I mean, from a human standpoint, like, oh yeah, that was all me. For sure was not me, even in the slightest degree at all. Because if it was me, it would have been messy and it would have yielded probably chaos. Not because I'm chaos, but because I'm human. And the more I'm pushing my will or my desire or my next interest, the more it has potential for failure. And so I just want to say, as a person who's got to a point where I'm enjoying the first couple of steps, the big steps, and partnering to climb up those steps and turn around and enjoy life around me, and seeing the more full picture of what life can be like, which I did not understand. I couldn't have imagined the difference that life could be. I watched other people. I watched how they lived their lives. I saw how they interacted. There are a couple of couples that are just incredible encouragements of love and thoughtfulness and consideration. And I thought, well, I guess that is possible. And then if it's possible once, then it could be possible again. But living it is just, oh my goodness, so much better. And so while I'm still, just a few steps in, and there's a lot more steps ahead, I hope. It is so worth believing in those dreams and trusting that God has the plan, and that while you may still experience challenges along the way, those challenges don't have to define you in and of themselves. And actually they are often, and even when you don't know it, preparing you for a journey you didn't know you would be on. And this recent season of challenge, as I was driving home tonight, I kept thinking to myself, I have been a piñata for a bit now. And I seem to have doled out a whole lot of sticks, because it's just whack, 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 different directions. And it is frustrating because it's not what I'm giving to other people. I don't give them, I'm not taking a stick to anyone else. But somehow I'm like the super piñata, and everybody's excited that I'm really candy stuffed, because it is just a constant whoop. So the exhaustion with that is real. But what that made me think about is, I would not be prepared. I would not have the endurance development that I have and have fostered, like any other muscle, over time and experience and challenge. I wouldn't have the endurance that I have today, that resiliency and tenacity and the stick-with-itness and resolve, if I hadn't followed through in enduring in those things that were also very challenging. And so don't be afraid of the thing that's in front of you that's more than you seem to be able to handle today, because there's this often misunderstood reference about God. God's never going to give you more than you can handle. Fiction on all accounts. Absolute garbage. That's not the case. He's literally going to give you more than you can handle all the time. If you exist on earth, you have more than you can handle, but he will be your strength. So it's not about you figuring it out or you've got this, because garbage, you got nothing. I remember seasons of feeling so just formless, like I'm just being carried around in a jug by God at this point, full liquefied, because I got nothing solid about me anymore, just so ripped apart and heartbroken. And he was faithful then, and he did so much to prepare me during all of that challenge and time, to prepare me to fully appreciate what I have today and to be the woman I needed to be, to have the opportunities in this life. And so all glory to God, because he's so good. But the dream reminded me, the dream story, Nephi Lesko's message about Joseph and his dreams, and that dream casting reminded me of the goodness of God and how many times he used something so basic and happenstance, a dream. Now, there was a great message in that dream, and it wasn't casual and it wasn't accidental or coincidence, but it was just a dream, a single night that has for many, many years endured and been a easy for me to say, source of encouragement and resolve that the good thing is coming. And I also, by the way, for those who feel like, well, maybe not here, I never expected per se that goodness would have to come this side of heaven. So I was fully committed that might not be my story here, but God had greater for me ultimately. So anyways, for the skeptics out there, I hope you enjoy the story, my wild and weird dreams. I'm sure there are more of them that I'll share. So come back again another time and I'll tell you another story.